Yes, now after having studied the qualitative law or the qualitative statement, law of demand, now let us move on to the quantitative dimension to this analysis. The quantitative dimension is nothing but the elasticity of demand. Now you must know the meaning of the term elasticity. When you go to physical sciences, you can take the example of a rubber band. If I have a rubber band, if I stretch a rubber band, the ability of the rubber band to come back to the same position after I leave the rubber band from the stretch is nothing but elasticity. But when we talk about social sciences or economics per se, the concept of elasticity is nothing but the ability to change or the ability to adapt. So what we will be talking about in elasticity of demand? Now we have explained the relationship between price and demand in the law of demand. The extent of the change in the quantity demanded with reference to or relative to a change in the price is what we'll be explaining in elasticity of demand. We'll be going into the quantitative aspect. We'll be studying the magnitude of change in demand with reference to change in price. So 3 examples have been given. As a result of fall in price from rupees 7,000 to 5,000, the quantity demanded of blood pressure measuring apparatus increased from 100 units to 200 units. As a result of fall in price of rice from 20 to 18, the quantity demanded increased from 500 to 520 kg. Or as a result of fall in price of salt from 9 to 750 rupees per kg, the quantity demanded increased from 1000 kg to 1005 kg. So in every case there has been a fall in price and increase in demand, but it has different proportions. Say in the first case, there was increase from 100 to 200 units, increase of 100. In the second case, increase of only 20 units. In the third case, increase of only 5 kg. So there are varying proportions. We will be trying to develop measures for measuring these proportions or measuring this magnitude using the concept of elasticity of demand. And we'll be trying to develop these measures. Now these measures would be developed based on all the determinants, especially based on price of the commodity, based on income of the consumer, and based on prices of related goods. We'll be discussing these in detail while studying price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, and cross elasticity of demand. What is elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand is defined as the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a good to changes in one of the variables of demand, namely price, which is price elasticity of demand, income, which is income elasticity of demand, and price of related goods, cross elasticity of demand. As I told you, the degree of change or degree of adaptability. In simple terms, elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. Simple words. When we are talking about non-price factors, it would be percentage change in demand, not quantity demanded. Percentage change in demand upon percentage change in the income of consumer. Or in case of cross elasticity, percentage change in demand for red label tea upon change in the price of Girnar tea. Very simple. This is elasticity of demand. We will be studying it in detail. Price elasticity of demand, the formula as I told you, percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. Now, what is percentage change in quantity demanded? Look at the numerator of the second expression. Change in quantity upon original quantity into 100. Denominator would be change in price upon original price into 100. Now, we are further simplifying it. 100 is getting cancelled. Change in quantity upon original quantity, and we are inverting the expression in the denominator of the previous step. So, it would be original price in the numerator and change in price in the denominator. In symbolic language, it is equal to EP is equal to delta Q, that is change in quantity, upon delta P, that is change in price, into P, that is original price, upon Q, Q is original quantity. Numerical example. Price of a commodity decreases from rupees 6 to rupees 4 and the quantity demanded of the good increases from 10 units to 15 units. Find the coefficient of price elasticity. Delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. Delta Q in this case is change in quantity. Quantity has changed from 10 to 15. So 15 minus 10 is 5. Upon change in price, 4 minus 6 is ideally minus 2. Correct? into original price was 6 rupees upon original quantity was 10 units. So it is 5 upon 2 into 6 upon 10. See, we are not considering negative 2, negative sign of 2, because there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, and we have accepted the fact that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. And for that matter, and so for the purpose of simplicity, for the sake of simplicity, we will be always considering absolute values. This is only true in the case of price elasticity of demand. In case of cross elasticity and income elasticity, this won't be true. That time sign would be important. But in case of price elasticity of demand, we are always considering absolute values, because we know that there is an inverse relationship, and because of an inverse relationship, every value you get of elasticity would be negative. Okay, so we are taking absolute values, 5 upon 2 into 6 upon 10, which is 1.5. So this is how we are calculating the value of coefficient of price elasticity. It was a very simplistic example. Okay, delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. Now there are 5 types of price elasticity of demand. See, now you got the value of price elasticity is 1.5. You could get some other values also. And depending on the value of price elasticity, you could have a different shape of the demand curve. Now what is that? We will be understanding in the next slide. Now these 5 types: perfectly inelastic demand, relatively inelastic, unitary elastic, relatively elastic, and perfectly elastic. Now perfectly inelastic demand, as you can see in the slide, you have a vertical demand curve. Irrespective of change in price, see, my price has changed from say P1 to P2, irrespective of change in price, my demand is not varying. Demand is constant at Q. There is no change in demand. So my demand curve is vertical. Whatever might be the change in price, price may fall, price may rise, my demand curve is going to remain a straight vertical line, and quantity demanded will be constant at Q. So this is an example of perfectly inelastic demand, because irrespective of a change in the price, my demand is constant. So change in quantity demanded is 0. So because my numerator is 0, my entire expression of coefficient becomes 0. EP is 0. Demand curve is perfectly inelastic. This is a rare situation. Remember, what would be the slope of this demand curve? What is delta Y? You know, Y is always price. What is change in price? The change in price would be a numerical value. But what would be delta X? Delta Y upon delta X is slope. So delta Y, that is the change in price, would be some positive figure, and delta X, there is no change in demand, so it would be 0. Anything upon 0 is infinity. So the slope of this demand curve, the slope of a vertical line which is parallel to the y-axis, will be infinity. So the value of EP is 0, but the slope of this demand curve is infinity. Relatively inelastic demand. Now you can observe here there is a 10% change in price, but only 5% change in quantity demanded. So the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price, less than proportionate change in quantity demanded relative to the change in price. So definitely my delta Q is going to be less and delta P is going to be more. So my EP is going to be less than 1. EP is less than 1, demand curve is steep and said to be relatively inelastic. You can observe this is not a vertical line, but still the demand curve is steeper. Unitary elastic demand. Unitary elastic demand, you can see how neatly the demand curve is placed, and the percentage change in price is equal to the percentage change in quantity demanded. So my delta Q upon delta P, percentage change in quantity upon percentage change in price, yet equal to 1. Demand is unitary elastic because the value of EP is 1. Unitary signifies 1. Relatively elastic demand. Now here you can see that there is a smaller change in price but a greater change in quantity demanded. So the proportionate change in quantity demanded is more than proportion as compared or relative to the change in price. So here EP is greater than 1 because percentage change in quantity is greater and percentage change in price is comparatively lesser. So here I have a flatter curve. In case of relatively inelastic demand, I had a steeper curve. See, I am moving from a vertical curve to a steep curve to a unitary curve to a flatter curve, and now is a horizontal curve. Perfectly elastic demand, a horizontal curve. Here EP is infinity. So with a very small or minute change in price, I have infinite change in quantity demanded. You can see there is infinite change in the quantity demanded with a very small price. there is a horizontal curve which is parallel to the x-axis. EP is infinity because change in quantity is infinity. Infinity upon anything is definitely going to be infinity. The slope of this curve will be delta y upon delta x, which will be delta y, that is change in price, so positive value, upon delta x, which will be infinity. Anything upon infinity is 0. So slope of this curve will be 0, but value of elasticity will be infinity. Remember, unitary elastic demand, perfectly elastic demand, and perfectly inelastic demand are fictitious situations. They are only theoretical. The main situations which are observed in practice are relatively elastic demand, that is demand where EP is greater than 1, and relatively inelastic demand, that is where EP is less than 1.